Will the Ipswich Wilder manage to beat Joseph Parker?
What a title.
Would you be happy with being called the Ipswich Wilder?
Me personally,
Well, if you're a boxer,
yeah,
it,
well, yeah,
it'd be quite good if, just as you are now, you'd take it, I think.
I would do. Just being from Ipswich and someone calling me, even on the count of my, ridiculously skinny legs, I assume, rather than my my concussive one punch power.
That would be an amazing nickname if it was just
Wouldn't
based on the
it?
legs.
Isn't it? Yeah. My legs have chunked up a bit over the years, but that would have been a great nickname. I'm going to save that. I have a mate in mind. I'm going to save it for him. Stag do next year. Just drop it. No one will get it, but
No, but
I'll laugh.
it'll be sort of yeah, I like that. I like you
Yeah,
calling me that. Yeah,
yeah,
because he got fucking stick legs, mate.
exactly. Never thrown a punch in your life. There we go. Yeah, yeah. No, I would like it. Anyway, yeah, great nickname, but it's very apt as well, isn't it? In terms of the narrative of this fight.
Well, I would say it's more apt. It's better. He's better than that. I'm gonna say because when Wilder encountered anybody of any note, he didn't knock them out. And
No.
has Wardley knocked out better opposition than Wilder? I
Um.
mean, with the exception of Ortiz, he's knocked out Hooney, who's a decent fighter. He's knocked out Fraser Clark, he's a decent fighter.
Eric Molina, Nathan Gorman. He's,
Yeah,
and
Nathan
I'm not
Gorman's
saying
he's scrabbling around in the dirt a bit there.
I'm not I'm not saying that Wardley's record's better than Wilder's. I'm just saying there's names on there that well, there's given the story around Wardley, I think he steps up pretty much every time he fights. Um, Justice Hooney, he did, although it wasn't the step up we thought he was going to have, given working with Big Baby. But yeah, he keeps on going through. So yeah, maybe his record is up there. I don't know. I don't know. Parker's the big step up, though, right?
Oh,
Big step.
it's
And a man who, let's not forget, in the Wilder comparison, met Wilder in the middle of a ring to negate that power. Now, whether that's Wilder as was or not, I guess is kind of well, we know it wasn't, but
yeah.
maybe took that away from him by going in there and not running, not running scared of Deontay Wilder.
So it's an exciting fight. I'm quite excited for this one.
I
Um,
am, I am. It's one of those where I simultaneously give Fabio Wardley no chance and a chance because you know I guess all the logic points to points to Joseph Parker winning. The levels, the schooling, the amateur pedigree, everything. The recent form. It feels like he's on the up. Whereas Wardley, well, we know about Wardley. He's got that he can bang, but his last performance wasn't great. So
hmm.
it's,
Really was a poor performance considering he he went the distance with Fraser Clark in the first fight for a
yeah.
draw. And to take Fraser Clark to a draw over the duration of a full fight, I think there's a degree of boxing skill needed to be able to do that.
Yes, yeah, yeah. And durability.
Yeah.
Yeah, and durability. And this is the thing with Wardley is that, and he said this as well. I've watched a load of interviews on it, but it's okay for him to say it. But it also does make sense to me is that he's he's learning on the job, as we know, and he does. And I've said this before. I've obviously had a vested interest in him as a fighting pride of Ipswich, the Ipswich Wild, and more so than myself. But you know, as a local lad, I watched him throughout, and I thought there's going to be a ceiling where he can't go through, and I've thought that several times. We're talking about or Eric Molina. I thought that would be too much for him. I thought Nathan Gorman would be too much for him, and then I started thinking, okay, maybe. maybe there is more to Fabio Wardley than I gave him credit for, whilst loving him and loving what he's done. And I thought that would come against Fraser Clark. And I thought it was going to come in that first fight, but he showed that staying power. And then, the next fight against Fraser Clark, he just deals with him like that.
Hmm.
And I guess it's so whether that punch came in the first round because he'd learned so much about Fraser Clark, or whether it was just he could get him at any time and it just happened to be the first round. Or was it the second round? I can't remember. Very early, very brutal. So I guess what I'm saying is, has he learned even more from a Justice Hooney fight? And again, showing durability to be in there that long and taking a fair amount of punishment. Is he, you know, can he take a lot of punishment and still carry the power late on? And being against Justice Hooney, has he learned a lot against an Antipodean boxer with good fundamentals, which is what Joseph Parker is as well. So has he? I'm not saying they're like for like fighters, but the rate that Wardley's learnt at is phenomenal, and I guess we can't really ignore that. The easy narrative is to say he's just got a puncher's chance, but also I think he's learning so much, and he's so unorthodox. I've heard, Fraser Clark was talking about it. I heard him on Talksport this week saying he's quite hard to fight against because he doesn't react in the way that you'd expect him to, and it keeps him dangerous and keeps you guessing because he doesn't move or throw his punches necessarily like a boxer. So it's riddled with jeopardy, particularly for Parker, because if Wardley loses, Wardley's lost to probably the second best fighter out there at the
Hmm.
moment, if below Usyk. If you take everyone else out, well, not everyone else out
Certainly,
there.
yeah, he's top
Active,
he's top three, isn't he? He's
yeah,
top
top
three.
three. If you, yeah, okay, Caballero, but you see certainly in the conversation, the Talma's not quite there yet. Fury and AJ are off the table for now. More on them later. But yeah, he loses nothing. Wardley, Parker, it feels like he needs this. So also the pressure's on Parker, therefore as well. I think.
He's got he's a bit of a banana skin potentially for him.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot to gain by beating Wardley, I don't think.
No,
Um,
he's there to win. Which I know sounds bloody obvious. They're both there to win, but he's there with the expectancy if he wins. If
yeah,
he doesn't win, it's not quite snakes and ladders all the way back to the start of a game, but it's you're
it'd
not
be a
going to be fighting
problem.
Dick anytime soon, are you?
It'd be a problem for Joseph Parker if he lost this fight. A real bad problem for him to have.
Yeah. I think the
So
other
what?
thing about
So
also,
how how can Wardley beat Parker? So
he's going to do it. He'll do it on points. Yeah,
no,
boxing
but
master.
no, but how can he do it? How can he beat him? Does he go in and try and rough him up? Like, does he have to throw it all in early? Does he just try and ride it for as long as he can and think his power will carry to the late rounds?
Yeah.
Like what's the
It,
method? Because it's going to be difficult.
yeah. Well, yeah. Exactly. It is going to be hard because you look at I guess the body of evidence of how to beat Joseph Parker. Now that all comes before the Andy Lee renaissance of Joseph Parker. So whether it's relevant or not, I don't know, but that's all we have to go on. Now, he's not going to beat him like Anthony Joshua did because Joshua kind of kept him at range, didn't he? He was after the Klitschko fight for AJ and he didn't want to get clipped, and he
Didn't
kind of it was a
didn't
bit, he was
really
sort of
go in.
get behind his jab, and he kind of just used his reach and negated Joseph Parker. I don't think he can do that, particularly with the Andy Lee version of Joseph Parker. So I think that's out the window. And obviously that's not what I'd be amazed if Wardley did that. And he won't. And he won't do that. He won't do that. The other one, I guess, is White. White bullied him, didn't he?
Yeah,
I feel like that's his best bet, is to go to kind of make him feel his power early and try and make it ugly. But I don't know whether Wardley's street smart, ring IQ enough to have that over everything that Joseph Parker has, and with Andy Lee in the corner. So I feel like that's his best bet. The Joyce's one was like his chin and his engine just kept on going. I don't know if Wardley has the engine to keep going and carry. But But that said, he does, he took punishment against Hooney. I watched that back. He did take punishment, and he carries again. We talk about carrying the power late, um, but it was a really smart knockout. I've seen, watched it again and heard him talking about it, about how it wasn't just a punch from the gods. Ben Davison, roll the dice and all that, but Ben Davison talked about this thing that Justice Hooney does, where he kind of sort of, off punch, he sort of trots back in. He's sort of like almost off his feet as he's about to kind of launch an attack. And that was a time when his balance would be most compromised, and that was the exact point when Wardley threw the punch. So he carries the power late, but he carries the awareness late as well. So I think it's the classic one of Parker can't relax for a second. I don't think Parker will do, but Wardley's always going to have a chance as long as the fight goes on. And I do think I think he's got to make an impact early on. So I don't know whether he's just going to concede rounds and just, I don't think he'll do, I don't think it's going to be, Wilder versus Ortiz. I don't think it's just me like, well, I'm going to do nothing. And then, not consciously anyway.
Oh, I may be changing my pick on this one, the more I think about it. I'm maybe going to pick Wardley for it.
Yeah. I've talked myself around in that. So,
Well, so my thoughts are obviously, Joseph Parker's been in with some good opposition. He's got some good wins under his belt. I think there are a few question marks over some of those wins. Not that they weren't wins, but just the quality of the opposition better on paper than it maybe was in reality. I think Zhile Zhang, seems to be fading fast, but he's quite old. Wilder seems to be shot to pieces. Bacoli was just an absolute joke in that fight. So there's a few question marks over Wardley's recent wins there, and as to how good the
yeah,
opposition were.
yeah, it's inflated, isn't it? That's what makes this so tricky.
But he's been decked more than a few times as Parker. So he's hittable. Obviously, Zhang, I think, decked him twice.
Yeah,
Dillian White has put him over.
Joyce.
Joyce has put him over. He's hittable. The only thing that sort of goes against that a little bit, he's bigger now. He's about 260 pounds, so he's a bit of a monster now.
Yeah.
Whereas I think before he was fighting around 240, something like that. So, but
Yeah,
maybe that makes him slower. I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, gone.
and I don't know who the best benchmark of how good Joseph Parker is. Like, I don't know what fight is the one where you go, he's clearly a very good fighter. Because actually, I was thinking this morning, if Wardley fought Joyce, who would you pick?
Today, Wardley.
I'm not sure that he beats Joyce. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, no, okay, that's my gut reaction. But that's just because I think I'm at the point now where I pick Wardley against almost everyone other than the elite.
Right. It's
Just
just I'm not.
I could, I could make the case for Joyce's chin, his relentless nature. You can make the case for it. But this is the thing. I spoke before about the Wardley paradox for me is I'm simultaneously expecting him to lose and expecting him to win. Wouldn't be surprised either way. He's a mystery. He's an absolute
Yeah.
mystery. How he does what he does. Every fight in real time and beforehand. I go through this wave. I think, right, yeah, of course he's going to lose. Now I'm starting to sort myself around. It's Thursday now. Saturday, I'll be there thinking. Saturday, I'll be before the fight. I'll be thinking he's going to win, and then from the first round until when he knocks him out, I'll be thinking he's going to lose. And that's the wave I go on with every Wardley fight. You watch it again. Yeah, no, okay, he's a step too far. He's had a good run of it, but this makes sense. He's reached his ceiling.
I wonder, because based on how long's he been with Ben Davison, Wardley?
Uh, do, do, do. I don't know, maybe 3, 4 fights.
Right, because this is Ben Davison versus Andy Lee, and
which is interesting. I like that as well.
I'm far more in the Andy Lee camp than I am the Ben Davidson camp.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and I think I don't think Wardley's last fight reflected very well on Ben Davidson at all. Now I know you talk about, they were able to sort of reference the fact that they talked about this move to counter something that Justice Hooney's doing. But I mean, they're always going to have those in any situation when someone knocks someone out. You say we worked on it or whatever. We've been working on the right hand. We've been working on the overhand right, whatever. Doesn't matter. Uppercuts, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but it felt like it gone backwards. It really did feel like it gone backwards. I mean, I don't know how you can go from taking Fraser Clark all the way to getting absolutely outclassed by Justice Hooney in every round, basically.
Yeah, I mean, the caveat here is that he wasn't meant to fight Justice Hooney, and I can't remember quite how long the run-in it was where Justice Hooney came in because they'd had all the reveal, Big Baby Miller and all of that, and then he'd gone out. Now they're very different fighters, so
Yeah,
you
fair
know,
play, fair play.
so there is that. That said, you look at, and I like Ben Davison. I love Andy Lee. But I do like Ben Davison. First of all, his work with Fury, but then also, I like Wardley, and I see him in there, and obviously a Talmo. But there's also Lee Wood, right?
Mm.
And if you look at Lee Wood and you think of the Conlon fight and Warrington, they're both fights where it's a punch from the gods.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like, well, is that something that Ben Davison trains, or is that he's lucky that he has these fighters with concussive punches? That one punch. I don't know. You can probably make a case for it either way, depending on if you're looking at it from the outside or whether you're Ben Davison. so,
Yeah, true.
so
I would say he works with a lot of fighters who have got absolutely devastating power, and it can happen at any point.
yeah, yeah.
He wasn't able to do it with Joshua against Dubois, for instance. Almost, but
Yeah, I forgot about his involvement with Joshua, actually. Who else has he got?
he's got nearly everyone now, hasn't he?
Does.
Oh, he's got Moses, obviously.
Yeah,
Another fighter
yeah.
with concussive
Yeah,
power.
yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Um,
He's got Ben
yeah.
Whittaker as
well. No, Ben Whittaker is now with Andy Lee.
Andy Lee, right? I'm getting him confused. There you go.
Yeah. Which will be interesting. So yeah, I think I'm going to pick. I'm going to pick Wardley. I hope that he doesn't do what he did with Justice Hooney and just lose rounds of boxing him. I hope that he sticks it on him a little bit. Now, I don't think he can go in round one and try and blast him out of there, because I think that would be incredibly dangerous. But I think if he's down two or three rounds early on, then I think he should have a go. And not because Parker's boring, right? I think Parker's a boring fighter. Like take out the Bacoli win. Largely, a lot of his fights are quite dull. His fight against Joshua was an absolute snooze fest.
It was, but I think that's changed with the Andy Lee. Certainly the Wilder fight, because no one expected him to come out like
that still wasn't an exciting fight, because
it was surprising though. He had much.
It was
more
surprising, but Wilder didn't really throw. Against Zhang,
he almost didn't let him. He just got into him, really, like took the centre of a ring from the off. Like no one saw. I certainly didn't see Parker doing that.
I think I picked him for that fight.
I didn't.
I think I did.
Remember that fight? Parker was there, not quite in the Dillian White versus Atoma kind of mold, but he was there as an all right.
Yeah.
Because then it was going to be Wilder versus AJ, and then obviously, what happened. So it kind of completely changed.
I think, but I think you're more focusing on the outcome or the surprise. I just don't think Parker's that. It's not that exciting. I can't think of fights where it swings for him or anything like that.
Yeah.
Or like the pace changes. He seems to be very sort of one paced in the way he fights. Like he's consistent. He's there. He's got a relatively good chin, or he gets up. Let's say gets up.
Mm.
It doesn't seem to throw bombs or anything like that. Like Wilder, despite getting sort of hit on the head quite a lot of times, he came out looking pretty fine. He looked all right in that fight.
Yeah.
He didn't look badly damaged or anything like that. Um, and
That
I
won't.
think I think this is why he's got problems getting
Mm.
title shots and things like that. He's quite dull.
Yeah, he's not. Yeah, I agree with that. What I'd say is, and maybe that's why he hasn't had the Usyk fight, as well, because it's on.
I think yeah, the Saudis don't seem
One of those.
interested in putting it on
It's
because
yeah.
he's not a big. The problem is he's not a big mouth outside of the ring either. So despite him making his sort of comedy call
Which is
out
great.
videos, I mean they are good, but I don't.
His
The pro
videos in general are funny. I
They
just,
are they are funny, but the problem with those is if you take like let's say Joseph Parker's got one sort of way of trying to get fights, which is making these videos and they're quite funny and what have you. But then you've got like maybe Big Baby Miller, or
yeah,
say he wants to bone your sister or something like that. But he'll continue doing that in all of the build up, right? So it's going to
yeah,
sell
yeah,
because
yeah, yeah,
he just doesn't let go. Whereas
yeah.
Parker, I think, once he's signed, once he's got the fight, you're in
Oh,
for a
so respectful.
relatively respectful build up, which nobody's that interested in. It's like I haven't watched a lot of the build up to this one. I've not watched them
We're two
talking
of
to
the
each.
nicest blokes in boxing.
It's
I
yeah,
mean, they're going to be certainly Fabio Wardley is going to be a great pundit. He's really well
yeah,
spoken,
yeah.
comes across well, very articulate. And Joseph Parker maybe less so, but they're two
But
really solid.
Joe Parker, he already gets pundit work, doesn't he? He
Yeah,
already does
yeah,
quite
and
a
so
bit
does
of it.
Wardley. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Do,
so
do you know?
it's like
Sorry,
the
go on.
face off. Like someone could do a little video on YouTube of face off the highlights, and it'd just be 1 second long. That's just there's
Yeah,
not going to be anything there.
and but also I'm kind of okay with that because I feel like
I don't
it
mind
would be
it.
disingenuous if I
Yeah,
did
yeah,
anything
yeah.
for those two.
I don't mind it. And actually, this fight, I'm well up for it anyway.
Yeah,
I hope Wardley brings something because I think the worst case scenario for me would be Joseph Parker just outboxes him across 12 rounds. There's very little sort of comeback from Wardley, and it's a like 10 round victory by Parker
yeah,
because I think at the very least I want to see Wardley launch a real attack. And the great thing about Wardley is let's say Parker's. This is what I was thinking. He's been down a few times. Okay, so he went down against Zhang twice. He was able to get back up, but when Zhang puts you down, maybe with the exception of Wilder, it doesn't really go for you.
no, yeah, 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 yeah.
Whereas Wardley he's like a shark, isn't he? Like once he
Oh,
sniffs
he
blood,
will. As soon as he sniffs it, he'll go. But this is the thing as well. When he does it, I'm trying to think of a time where I've seen him fail or blow a gasket and leave himself exposed. It looks like he should do, but this is he
well,
kind of
maybe Fraser
always look.
Clark, maybe Fraser Clark. He had his moments in Fraser Clark one
But he
where
always, yeah, he always looks knackered. He always looks knackered, and I guess yeah, maybe, but he didn't. But he didn't leave himself exposed in that sense, as in like he never looked like going down really himself. Um, I don't think.
it did. The one interesting thing with Wardley is in the Hooney fight, he looked pretty fucking pissed off. Like he
Well, he
looked like
was. I
this is
think,
going quite badly, and I wonder if Joe Parker could do that to him and almost
yeah,
demoralize him, like
he'll be
by round
different.
six.
No, it'll be different because I think he'll be with a narrative around the fight, but also, well, also the levels. I think he'll almost be. There's an expectancy that that's what will happen. But Joseph Parker will win every minute of every round in this fight. So Wardley's level of expectation of himself be very different to what it was at Portman Road when he had this big, the big homecoming. A lot of pressure on him in terms of locally as well because Ipswich as the football team had a shit season in the Premier League. It wasn't. It was. This is meant to be like the crowning glory of a great year for Ipswich. Ed
Yeah.
Sheeran was at Portman Road a few weeks
Uh,
later. So like it was
every silver lining's got to have a
no, no,
cloud.
no, no, no. But so like, but locally, like this, this was like almost like the centerpiece of it, to go in the middle of those two events. And he was fighting someone who was, largely not a name. Or he wasn't a name.
No.
We weren't really up on Justice Hooney before that fight, if we're honest. And so he's there was a lot of pressure on him to deliver, almost like a first round knockout. Just get rid of this bum. It was almost like that. And the longer the fight went on, I think the pressure got more and more and more. And I think he was pissed off. And I've seen and heard a lot of interviews of him since where he says, I had a bad day, I had a really bad day at the office, and I was pissed off because I was like, I'm letting everyone down. And there was everyone was there to see him, and there's a lot, a lot on that. Go where he grew up, you can pretty much see Portman Road from the estate where he grew up, and it's, there was a lot at the O2. There's not that. He's there to spoil Parker's party more than Parker there to spoil
Yeah,
Fabio.
yeah.
So the psychology for him is completely different.
Yeah, I suppose.
So yeah, so it's going to be an interesting one. The thing that I'm not buying into is the age difference. There's only 3 years in it, but
3 years, yeah, it's not a
yeah,
lot.
but it's being painted as Parker's this old man and Wardley's this young.
That's a nonsense. 33
But I guess
isn't
it's ring age, isn't it? Because I think, but also I thought Parker was older. I thought Parker was like 37. Just if you'd asked me, 37, 38. But that's just because he started.
He was a young champion. He was a young champion.
He was a young when he had WPO, whatever it was, and that Andy Ruiz fight was he like 24, something like that. I don't know. He must, it would have been. He was like 2017, wasn't it? So yeah, it'd have been. Yeah, 24, 25. So young champion. I think he seems older than he is. And I do feel like if he loses, there's still a way back at 30.
Yeah. There is still a way back. It just throws a couple more fights in the mix for him, doesn't it? And Joe Parker's one of those where the losses on his record are not, having a record of losing to Joe Joyce and Dillian White. They're all right fighters, but they're not, they're not world champions that you're losing.
They suddenly look a lot worse if Wardley's added to that list.
Yeah.